Episode 19, The Rundown. I'm Gabe Henderson. Stevie Katz on the back, on the ones and twos. Kyle Stackpole is beside me. And I know you're probably asking why this guy's here. This is the senior production manager, Asa Winborne. How you doing,
right?
Man?
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm good, bro.
Fantastic.
Man, I know a lot of people are asking, like, why are you sitting right there? Why are you here? And I'm going to explain. Asa just produced the Black History Month special with Dwayne Haskins and Doug Williams. The tale of the black quarterbacks in the NFL, and it was a phenomenal piece.
Appreciate it.
Part 1 premiered last Friday. Part 2 was today, Wednesday, and part 3 is tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yeah.
But before we get into it, because I want to get your thoughts on not just that, just Black History Month in general, being in February, but give us a little background of how you got to where you are right now with the Redskins.
So how I got to the Redskins?
Yeah.
So I guess my background is journalism major at the University of Maryland. Shout out Merrill College.
Terps.
Let's go Terps.
We're taking over here.
And from there, I actually got an internship at the Redskins. So I started in the RBN group, so Redskins Broadcast Media or Network. And then from there, rose through the ranks, went from intern to part-time to like an entry-level producer. And then now where I am as a senior production manager.
Gotcha.
So you just grind for the last 4 seasons,
Man, that's what's up, man. But like we said, the piece that you produced was phenomenal. And for you, it takes it. I don't think a lot of people don't really know, the process that goes into producing a piece. But when it comes to something of heritage per se, that's it takes a little bit more time. For you editing that piece, what was it? What was it like? Having Doug Williams, the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. And, first black quarterback to win Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl.
And just to start and yeah. It's actually like just thinking about every day you walk in this building and you see guys like Doug Williams working here, and like that's your cohort, that's your co-worker. It's just like you take a step back and you gotta be like, wow, like that's Doug Williams. Like I do that plenty of times. I'm like, wow, I just spent a couple minutes talking to Doug Williams, like just at the coffee pot, whatever. Yeah. So doing this piece was very it was thoughtful. Like I had thought-provoking, because you think about the history of that position of quarterback being an African-American in general, whether it's in the U.S. or overseas, but like being black in sports, there's just a lot of facets through the whole like problem or equation. Like you have to think about all these different aspects of being African-American in sports, right? Just in this world.
And a thing that stood out to me in the piece, was Doug and Dwayne. They were talking, and being an African American myself, every morning you look at yourself in the mirror. You tell yourself, hey, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm proud to be, but you never change. And that's something that Doug said in the beginning was like, hey, I knew I was a black quarterback, but at the same time, every time I look at myself in the mirror, I know I'm black. But he said one thing that stood out to him about sports and what makes sports unique is whenever he got in that huddle, there was no racism in that huddle.
Yeah, that was one thing that really resonated with me, because I played football in high school. Shout out Quince Orchard Cougars. That's one thing I did notice. Like our team was full of black, brown, white, Asian kids, like all over the spectrum. Yeah. But whenever you stepped in that huddle, you put that helmet on, strapped up, like all that went out the window. You just went to war with your brother. And like I didn't play at the college level, at the NFL level, but that's the same sentiment throughout all levels of sports, no matter what sport it is or what level you're playing at. You're going to war with your partner. So you gotta like bleed with the same blood as your man and do it for them, because you're putting the same amount of work, same hours, same sweat, determination. All that is for your partner, your teammate.
Doug Williams went to a HBCU, Grambling State. Yeah. Dwayne Haskins went to Ohio State. How did you sense that dynamic between the two? Them, talking about their background. What was something that stood out to you about that?
That was one thing I actually really wanted to talk about. The fact that they had 2 different routes, but they got to the same spot. Like they're both the starting quarterbacks for the Redskins. Right. HBCU, Power 5 school, Big Ten, Ohio State. Those are 2 vastly like different routes. But they end up at the same spot. And when I asked them about that, they really had just unique answer in saying that I was playing football. Right. I was doing what was available to me. I did ask Dwayne if he wanted to go to HBCU, and he said that was always a thought in the back of his mind, but HBCU weren't really schools that are reaching out to him. He was getting offers from Ohio State, these other schools that are Power 5 conferences. So when I talked to him about that, it was just it really you think about it how in the last 50 years since I guess Doug was in the Super Bowl 27 years ago or
1987.
Yeah. Right? Within that 30, 40 years, we've gone from guys going to HBCUs because that's their only option to being able to go to these Power 5 schools and make these plays on ESPN and being seen daily versus small markets with HBCUs.
Right. I've always been I've been on record even saying like I would like to see a lot of these big time African American athletes start going back to HBCUs.
Yeah.
And I asked Doug that, and Doug was like, that ain't happening.
You see guys with like big names. Like imagine if Bronny Jr.
I think his first offer was North Carolina Central,
NCCU. Yeah. Like that would be incredible because that would bring a lot of money, a lot of just eyes to these HBCU schools, and it will bring attention to players who just couldn't necessarily get into these other schools. Right. Unfortunately, like some of the lifestyles that they are brought up in don't allow them to get those looks or offers where they could absolutely make it to Harvard. They could make it to, these Princeton or all these other schools, Ivy League, Power 5, it doesn't matter. They could do it, but they just don't have the resources to get there. And if you have someone like Bronny Jr. with all the eyes on him, because like I was watching this game, he's a freshman, right, at Sierra Canyon.
Yeah.
I'm watching the high school game. I've never watched a high school game in my life. Like, I didn't even go to my high school games to watch basketball, But like the fact that I'm watching this like kid celebrity, like all those the nation's eyes, the world's eyes are on him. So if they bring that attention to HBCU, you can see a lot of other kids get that same attention, and then that would end up bringing like more attention to HBCUs, more attention to the kids. Those kids can end up getting higher draft stock, actually get drafted.
Two more questions before I go, unless you have anything. First question. Let's say a Bronny goes to North Carolina Central or HBCU. I think Dwayne said one of the main reasons, he didn't say it like this, but one of the main reasons why, a lot of big-time athletes don't go to HBCUs is because of the resources.
Yeah.
So do you think, like a Bronny or somebody, if they go to HBCU, those HBCU will receive more resources to be able to, recruit and have more leverage in the recruiting game?
Absolutely. I think if more eyes are on them, they'll see that that's a pipeline where you can get a lot of talent. Not that the talent isn't going to these other schools already, but there's some kids who just, again, don't have the resources to even get, like, they have the thought to go to those schools.
Yeah.
So if you bring in eyes and attention to there, people are like, we can do something with these kids because these kids are absolutely talented.
Right.
And it's not like they're dumb or stupid and they can't do it. They just don't have the resources.
Yeah.
So if you can put the attention on them, that will happen.
Well, the other thing is that in addition to the resources, the competition just isn't as good. I mean, these kids are going to these schools because they're competing with the best against the best, which is giving them the best chance to be drafted. But like you said, it would have to start with someone like Bronny Jr. deciding to not go to one of the blue bloods and then go there, and then that as they start getting more kids, then they don't have a choice but to, okay, hey, we got to up the competition, we got to up the resources. We see ourselves as just as good of a program as these other guys. So
Absolutely.
I think it really does start with the players.
Somebody has to be that first one.
And that's something that Doug mentioned too. He said that just like those schools weren't reaching out to Dwayne when he was coming out of high school. So he just didn't even really thought. He thought about it, like, if those schools don't offer, I could always go to Howard. That's down the street or whatever.
Right.
But if those schools reached out, who knows? Maybe something could happen. But these guys are really just kind of, these HBCUs are really just kind of getting what they can get because they know the resources are, it's enticing. If you look at Alabama, you go take a visit there, you see the facilities, you're like, wow, I want to spend the next 4 to 5 years here.
Right.
And then possibly get like a draft stock, try to get drafted early. That's why a lot of guys there go there. Some guys even go and they don't even play.
Think a long term.
And they end up going to Jew college or like playing, I guess, wherever. Like they still take their way to the NFL, but they go on these long routes.
Lastly, in your opinion, after, we all know that sports bring this world together, but after producing this piece, we see that, Doug's Super Bowl MVP, he's in an arena where there's people of totally different ethnicities, but now you have an African-American at the forefront, and now you have to learn about his story and not just him as an athlete. How do you think sports will, continue to bring this world together?
I mean, you see it happening already. The fact that we have, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, all these guys are finally being starters. They could have been playing receiver, just like when Lamar Jackson got drafted, he said he wanted to be a receiver.
Right.
these guys are clearly talented and they're clearly smart enough. And representation is that much more important now, because the 5-year-old watching Patrick Mahomes throw left-handed football, that could be me.
Right.
At quarterback, even though his coach would say, oh, you're just a running back. You're just a receiver. Watching those kids on the TV today ball out, win MVP, win Super Bowl MVP, that opens up kids' minds to say, I can play quarterback.
Right.
Yeah, I think just going off of that was one of the most interesting things about the conversation between Doug and Dwayne was that Dwayne said, I grew up, and whether it was he was watching on TV or he was watching film of guys like Doug Williams and Warren Moon and Randall Cunningham, that showed him at an early age that he could do the same thing that these guys were doing. So from an early age, he became a student of the game. He had that confidence early on. So
he wasn't even watching, sorry to cut you off, but he wasn't even watching African-American quarterbacks. Just he was watching Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. He was watching all these guys say, I can play quarterback.
Right.
Because those guys
one thing that Doug did say is, like, when he played at Grambling, he was just a quarterback.
Right.
And he's on record saying that. Same thing for Dwayne. That's 40 years apart.
Right.
But when Doug came in, there was only 2 black quarterbacks.
Yeah, Dwayne's in. He was the only starter. Doug was the only starter.
But there's like only one other quarterback in the league. But when Dwayne came in, like, we have all these other guys with him. But the same thing about them, even though they go to different routes, I'm a quarterback. I'm not a receiver. I'm not a running back. I'm a quarterback.
Right.
And that's one thing that's probably helped Dwayne get to the point that he is now.
Yeah. And I think Doug and Dwayne can both agree that, the NFL is moving the memo forward for, Doug when he got here was one quarterback in the NFL. Now Dwayne's here is 10 starting quarterbacks in the NFL now, 4 backups. So it's 14 black quarterbacks. And, I think just taking that step forward is key. But like I said, man, phenomenal piece. Appreciate what you did.
Man, appreciate it.
Appreciate having you on.
Dwayne, we're going to keep talking Dwayne. We got Ken Zampese coming up.
Yep.
What else we got coming up, Kyle?
We got tying up some odds and ends, getting ready for the combine, and then we got to talk about a couple of big moves the Redskins made last week. So
perfect, man. Appreciate you, Ace.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir. Connect with the Redskins this offseason. Follow Redskins on Instagram and Twitter for team news updates and exclusive Redskins content.
Sign up for FanDuel now and get $5 in total bonus. Just make your first deposit to get started, and you'll get an extra $5 in site credit. Go to FanDuel.com/FFT or download the FanDuel app.
Redskins defensive lineman number 93, Jonathan Allen, hates to lose. So he's teaming up with Papa John's and you to help donate to Sasha Bruce Youth Work, helping homeless children in our region every day. Team 93 needs you to make it a winning day for your family and these special children. You'll get a large 2-topping pizza and an order of wings for just $20. And Papa John's will donate 93 cents to Sasha Bruce's Youth Work for every single order. Play to eat, play to give, but play to win, because nobody wants to lose. As promised, Ken Zampese, new quarterbacks coach here with the Redskins, is here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. I mean, let's just get right into it. Kyle, we've been talking about this guy for a while. I mean, just having him here now, having him here join us, it's interesting to see this whole transition. And, Ron Rivera, gets hired, hires his coaching staff. And, the big question was, all right, who's going to coach the quarterbacks? Who's going to coach Dwayne? Now that you're here, what have you seen on film that really stands out to you about this, not only Dwayne, but just this offense?
Well, just Dwayne, I watched a bunch of them right when I got here. He's really quick with the ball. He stands in the pocket and takes a hit, and he's accurate. So those things are things we can build on.
And then I know you mentioned previously how you wanted to be a part of Ron Rivera's staff for a while now, and here you are as a quarterbacks coach for the Redskins. What was the process like of you joining Rivera's staff?
Well, there's certain people that know Coach that I know that were able to put in a good word for me, and then hopefully the history of the guys that I've coached and success they've had helped all that work itself out. And I'm so excited to be here. There's a long line of guys that want to be on Coach Rivera's staff, I promise you.
You got a history of, coaching history. Your dad, Ernie Zampese. John Madden's been on record saying your dad was one of the greatest offensive minds in the game. That's a big comment. So, like, for you, did you have any other interest before coaching? Like, was coaching just one of those things that just fell into your lap where you were just like...
I never wanted to do it.
Really?
But then when you finish your last game as a player in college and you're looking at graduation, really staring down the barrel of graduation, I want to go into business and use my degree, and then all of a sudden you think about, well, what's that entail? well, I'm going to be behind that desk, and I'm going to go to the same place. And I thought, there's no way I'm doing that. So where do? You go hide in graduate school where nobody says anything about it. And you can stretch it out a little bit till you figure it out. And then I started coaching, and we just started traveling around the country.
So what drew you to coaching quarterbacks? Why was that something that you wanted to hone in on and specify in?
You just get your hands on everything. That guy has so much to do with the wins and losses. Not quite as much as a baseball pitcher, but in football, he's the guy that way. And I just want to be a part of something that's very, very important. Not that any other position is not important. I just enjoy that, the reads and why, and just building a guy up from where he's at and taking him to a place where he can't take himself.
You've had a long history of coaching young quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks. I mean, your resume speaks for itself. Just seeing how quarterbacks have grown under your leadership. So for you, what do you attribute your coaching success and your coaching style to? I know your dad is a legend in the game, but for you, who would you attribute your success so far in the league?
Well, just watching my dad, growing up, it was about relationships and communication and how you treat others. And from there, you can really say anything to these guys that you want to say. It's all in the delivery.
Right.
And the more bridges you build, the more cred you have to say what you need to say when you need to say it, and they'll take it from you because there's respect involved. And just watching that at an early age, and I didn't know I wanted to coach, but I knew everybody that my dad was around always left with a smile. And there was you always enjoyed football and enjoyed the relationships.
So how does building those relationships change when you talk about coaching veteran guys and then you're talking about guys who are just getting to the league? How does your style change based on that?
Well, it doesn't change a whole bunch because it's about accountability and being able to be relied on. They need to know they can trust you, that you're in it for them, and then you get it back from them, and then it becomes a lot of fun. And they trust you with their thoughts and fears, and you're able to protect those and move them forward into areas that they weren't so sure about before, and then they become better players. And it's a stronger relationship because of it, and it's a lot of fun when you rely on somebody and he trusts you. It's a hell of a deal because that's where the fun's at. The fun's in the relationships, and the relationships relate to winning as you go forward because you can get so many things accomplished and communicated when you have it like that.
You speak of those relationships, and you were a guy you were with the Cincinnati Bengals for what, 14 years?
15
years, like that's unheard of. And
right.
Just speaking of just being in a place for so long to being you were with the AAF team, Atlanta Legends, for a year for that time that they were still a league, and you were with Cleveland Browns for a year.
Yeah.
So what is that transition like for you? Like what's the toughest part of going to a new place and then trying to adapt and learn the players, learn the culture, I know Ron Rivera's doing a good job. Once you learn the head coach, know what he wants, it makes it easier. But for you to build those relationships with those guys, what's the toughest part for that of that?
Well, I don't think it's tough at all. You just be yourself and be there all the time and just be present and just listen. And then offer and some back and forth. And once they know that you can help them be better players, it's really smooth from there because then they take what you say and they listen to you. And then we can really go forward and you add them to their ideas in and, make them part of the process.
Yeah, then Gabe talked about the young guys that you've coached, Carson Palmer, Baker Mayfield, both number one picks.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton, too.
John Kitna,
comeback player of the year, John Kitna.
Yeah.
So what do you think was the hardest thing about working with those young quarterbacks and getting them up to speed, getting them up to what's expected at the NFL level versus the college level?
The thing that was great about all three of those guys, the rookies, Andy and Carson and Baker, they were accountable guys early, and they had kind of this chip on their shoulder about I need to show well early. I got picked, and there's a lot riding on this, so I'm going to come in and show everybody that I'm supposed to be here at this draft status, at this draft level. So that part was good, but that's part of who you pick and why you pick them. Guys that are accountable, that you're not dragging them. You're not dragging them to your urgency. They can keep up with you. And those guys were that way. The time we drafted Andy, that was a CBA year. There was no spring. There was, I mean, he walked right into training camp as a rookie, and he's starting. And we were sitting there in the draft, and that was the same year Cam came out, and Gabbert and Locker and, you know, Kaepernick and the whole crew. And shoot, Andy was the guy we wanted all along.
Wow.
And we had to wait till the second round. I remember leaving. I was just upset. I go, why didn't we just trade up to 28 or something, pick Andy, and everything would be over with. And we waited, and he ended up, you know, falling to us anyway. But man, that was a rough night's sleep, because that was the guy. That was the guy that was accountable, that you could trust, and would handle it right away. He was mature.
Did you guys not have a first-round pick that year, or was
No,
that?
AJ Green.
Yeah, AJ.
So then you didn't. So you knew you had to get him first, and then you're like, we still want Dalton, but just a matter of when we can get him, kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah. You're sitting there, and you know, Cam's already been picked, and you're sitting there at 4. Do you want? I think it was. Do you want to pick a quarterback and you know, pick Blaine Gabbert, or do you want to pick AJ Green or whoever else, you know, were possibilities at that point?
So it's decisions you got to make. I mean,
Seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Huge.
I get it. At the same time, you know, just rewind it back a little bit. I think if you are familiar with the NFL, you're familiar with, you know, your dad played an instrumental role in the development of North Turner. And, you know, he calls him his mentor, you know, just that whole dynamic. Now, fast forward, you know, a few years, you and Scott Turner, North's son, get to work together. What's that dynamic been like? I know, you know, you guys got a little bit of history of just, you know, just knowing each other, but actually getting to work with him. I mean, you're going to work, you know, pretty close with, you know, quarterbacks and Scott being the OC, but, you know, what's that dynamic like between you two?
It makes the communication really easy right out the gate, because there's a mutual respect and history behind both of us in this system and in football. And it's smooth. It makes it smooth right out the gate. It's fun, because it keeps our families together. It keeps our dads involved. And it's a lot of fun. It's fun.
Like, what's one thing that you can say, like, hey, I want to help Dwayne get better in this phase of his game?
I just want him to persevere and push through. I want to see him work hard in his conditioning. I want to see him do what he says he's going to do and follow through with everything. And the sky's the limit for him. It's all on him.
Where have you seen him, just going through the tape? I mean, you talked about his physical ability. Just mentally, how did you see him progress since he took over the starting job, and just learning the NFL offense and what he's going to be able to do under this new system now this year?
Well, he was, you know, it's always a little rocky for the young guys, but the talent shows, because talent always shows at some point. And then at the end, those last couple games, it showed a lot. And so that you saw an upswing there at the end. You're like, oh, wow, that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we get our hands on him, we get a whole spring and summer, and we can get him even further along. That'd be fantastic. And that's where we're at right now, very optimistic. And seen him a handful of times running around here doing his thing, and we just we want to log work days and see where we can go.
Have you got adjusted to the DC, you know, area yet? Have you like how's that transition like for you? You know, actually, you know, starting to move here, get things situated.
Yeah, I know where Ashburn and Brambleton are, and Leesburg, and that is it. And how to get to work, and that's it.
That's all that matters, right?
And church, and that's about it. Yeah.
So then, I mean, a lot of people are calling this the new era of Redskins football. You have Ron Rivera, you have a whole new coaching staff, you know, a bunch of new players going to be coming in. What should fans know? What should fans expect during this new regime of Redskins football?
Well, discipline and structure. That's what Coach brings when he walks in the door. The whole atmosphere changes with his presence, and that's why he's a unique head coach. And there's not many guys that can do that, and he's that way. And that's why I wanted to be a part of this as fast as I could get here. I think that's the first thing that hits me right out the gate is discipline and structure, and that'll show in the way we play on the field. There's no doubt about it.
Did you know that the Washington Redskins are sponsored by Koch Industries? That's KOCH Koch. Their 67,000 U.S. employees make a lot of things that make game day better. Gurner Turf, they make that. Stronger paper products for tailgating, they make that. Oh, and electronic components and TVs and smart devices so you can watch a Redskins victory anywhere? Yeah, Koch makes that too. See all they make for on and off the field at kochmakesthat.com.
Looking for another chance to win? The 100K Scratcher replay from the Virginia Lottery is exactly that. Now, through March 31st, any non-winning Virginia Lottery Scratcher offers a shot at winning $500 in a daily drawing or even a $10,000 grand prize. Here's the lowdown. Any non-winning Virginia Lottery scratcher can be entered into a daily drawing. In each daily drawing, 2 players will win $500 each. Every entry into a daily drawing is automatically entered into the grand prize drawing, which is set for April 7th. On April 7th, 1 lucky player will win $10,000 grand prize. All entries must be entered either via valottery.com/replay or the Virginia Lottery app. The fun doesn't stop if you don't win on your scratcher. Just replay it with the 100K scratcher replay. Visit valottery.com/replay for more information. The odds of winning a prize in the $100,000 scratcher replay promotion depend on the number of entries received.
Kyle, I think it's safe to say that Ken Zampese is excited to get started with the Redskins.
Oh, man. I mean, just talking to him, he had that energy about him, his passion and his energy to work with Ron Rivera. I mean, he said we have a meet the coaches interviews coming out,
it was like
periodically. Whether Riverboat's crew or the staff that Ron built, not sure exactly. But anyway, so those are interviews with all the assistant coaches that are going to be out periodically over the next couple of weeks. But so he mentioned in that one how he's been wanting to be on Ron Rivera's staff for a long time.
Right.
And so just asking him about it today, he elaborated on it and he said it's just the way he does things. It's just the culture. It's just the discipline. It's just the accountability. He has a vision of how he wants things done, and he's going to stick to that. And Ken Zampese is a guy who appreciates that. And he said at the end, he said, there's a long list of guys that want to coach with Ron Rivera, and Ken Zampese is finally getting his chance, and he's excited about it.
And I think, like I told him, like I told Ken, his resume speaks for itself. Coaching guys like John Ketna, your Carson Palmer's, Andy Dalton's, Baker Mayfield's, having the success with those guys. I think a guy like Dwayne or Alex Smith, if Alex Smith is ready to, come back this year, I think both of those guys will, be, have their ears open, ready to learn, ready to listen. And I think that's what it takes. Bringing a guy like Ken Zampese here, it just adds more value to, what you're trying to accomplish as a whole. And then one other thing that stood out to me was his relationship with Scott Turner. We all know their dads are, really tight. Ernie Zampese, which is Ken's dad, was Norv Turner's mentor coming up in the game.
Yep.
So now, having that dynamic now of them two coaching together, it just makes it that much more easy to work together because, hey, bro, I already know you. We know who we are. I know your dad. You know my dad. I know your family. Now all we got to do is just come together and just compete to win a championship. That's the goal. We're trying to win a championship here. And having that familiarity, and, Scott has familiarity with Ron Rivera, it's just like a link of, hey, I've worked with him. I know how this guy thinks. I know how this guy thinks. And I think the biggest thing is just knowing they can always be one step ahead of each other because they already know what to expect from each other. So I think that familiarity and then, adding that to, being disciplined and being urgent, another word that a lot of these coaches are saying, urgency. Sam Mills said it today. DB's coach said it today, just being urgent and, just being disciplined. Those are the qualities that will win you those tight games.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing with Zampese and Haskins is just the confidence that he has in him. I mean, he admitted that he went through a rocky time to begin his rookie year, which we all saw, but he seemed really excited about what he showed since he became the starter and specifically the last few games. So I think he's really excited to work with him, and he believes, you can hear it in his voice, he believes that Dwayne can be that guy. He can progress on what he built throughout his rookie year and really carry that into his sophomore season.
Lastly, before we get out of here, got to announce the roster moves. Of course, we know Josh Norman and Paul Richardson. Those are 2 of the 4 guys that, were released out of their, released from the team this week. And, it was big news, especially for, Redskins fans, after hearing Josh Norman and Paul Richardson, 2 veteran guys that were, that have made contributions to this organization. And Larry Michael and I had the opportunity to sit down with Ron Rivera at DC Prime earlier this week. It's part 1 is on the website right now. And one of the questions I asked was, what went into that process of, coming to the decision of, hey, letting these guys go. And Ron Rivera, I think his answer was was the most respected answer that a coach
agree.
could give.
Yep.
I mean, he basically said, we just want to get younger. We want to give these guys a chance. Your Paul Richardson, your Josh Normans, give them a chance to actually, find a new home elsewhere, because he believes they'll have, they have a lot more years under their belt to, make a contribution to a team. Just a business decision. Hey, we want to get younger. No hard feelings. Like, hey, man, go do what you got to do. At least you won't be up in the air of like, hey, does the Redskins want me back or this and that? So, I mean, I respect it.
Exactly, because Ron said that him and the coaching staff were going to start evaluating the roster on February 10th. And so they did that, and after evaluating the roster, they determined that they had guys at both corner and wide receiver, younger guys, that they wanted to build around.
Right.
And so, there was no hard feelings. It was just a matter of, we're going to move forward with these guys, and we wish you the best in the future. And just the timing of it, like, everything had a purpose. I mean, and he also wanted the young guys to know that, hey, what we saw on film, what we saw your first couple of years, we think we can build on that. So not only was it giving veterans time to find a new home, but it was really instilling confidence in the young core of receivers and DBs that, hey, this new coaching staff has faith in you. They haven't coached you yet, but they believe that you can build and grow into starters on a consistent winning team.
Nice, man. Well, today was one of my favorite episodes.
We had a lot going on.
We had a lot going on. We had Asa Winborne on. We had Ken Zampese. You and I, we always, dialogue and discuss what's going on. So today was one of my favorite topics, man. I don't have anything else to talk about. I feel like I'm all worded out. You got anything?
I got some, yeah. So if you like the podcast, as always, rate, subscribe, good comments, wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Stevie, where else can they listen?
Tune in. What else?
You can watch on YouTube. You can watch on
everywhere.
Redskins app, redskins.com.
Yeah, that's true.
So next week.
I'm trying to think of other YouTube. You said YouTube.
I said
right?
YouTube already. So what? Next week we got the Combine coming up.
Combine.
So
man.
we'll have a bunch of us there, from some of us Monday to Friday, some of us Tuesday to Saturday. But I mean, we'll have coverage throughout the week.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera.
You're going.
I'll be there. Ron Rivera has a podium session. Director of Player Personnel Kyle Smith also will be at the podium. So we're also going to interview a couple of draft experts. Locked a few guys down yesterday, so excited about that.
Big week for Redskins fans.
And we'll talk next week, probably next Monday. Kind of just previewing the Combine, kind of what to expect, what kind of players aside from Chase Young maybe we should be looking for. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Nice. Well, for Stevie Katz, Ken Zampese, Asa Winborne, and my man Cal Stackpole, I'm Gabe Henderson, and this is The Rundown.
Are uninvited pests ruining your plans? Let PMSI, the pest control partner of the Washington Redskins, handle it for you. Call today for your free inspection, and they'll work around your schedule to provide you the best solution possible to defend your home territory against pests of all kinds, including mold. Visit mypmsi.com for the game plan to control the pests on your home turf. That's mypmsi.com.
At Coke, our 67,000 U.S. employees make things that make your game days better, like fertilizer for greener turf and stronger paper products for tailgating. Viewing the game from your couch? Coke also makes the electronic components in TVs and smart devices so you can watch your Redskins victory anywhere. Coke, we make that. See it all at KOCHmakesthat.com. That's CokeMakesThat.com.
Winter is the season for adventure, and if you want a car as exciting as your lifestyle, then it has to be an all-wheel drive Honda SUV. With more features, the CR-V has standard Honda sensing, more room for friends, the Pilot has seating for 8, more comfort, the HR-V has available heated seats, and more rugged. The Passport is built for adventure with ample cargo space and hidden storage compartments. Winter adventure is calling, and Honda is ready to answer. See your local Honda dealer today.
I'm Darryl Green. I retired from football in 2004, but I'm still active in business. I'm a founding board member of Main Street Bank, a local community bank meeting the needs of businesses like yours. I'm speaking now to the most football knowledgeable, faithful, most caring folks in the world, the Redskins faithful fans. I'd like to ask you to consider banking with my bank, Main Street Bank. Trust me, you'll get high-tech products and personal service. Go to mstreetbank.com and tell them old number 28 sent you.
Main Street Bank, member FDIC.